Welcome to Otherworldly Encounters. My name is Jimmy.
And my name's Cole. And today we're going to be talking about some alien abduction stories we've pulled from Reddit. One specifically, actually, from a user that goes by juli-segal. And we're just going to jump right into it, and then we'll stop and talk about it as we go, and stick along for the ride. So it starts off. I've been wanting to share this story for a while, but didn't know how to. I didn't know where to either. But after listening to an audiobook involving tales of abduction, I found out about this subreddit, so here it is. So I'm female and currently living in my early 20s, as well as an amputee. By that, I mean I don't have legs from the knee down. When I was 10, I was playing with my childhood friend in their backyard at around 10 p.m. I had escaped there after a particularly unwanted experience from my drunk mother being abusive to my father. While my friend and I were playing, we heard rustling in the trees ahead. We didn't think too much of it. We were in a very forested area, and it wasn't out of the question to hear these things. My friend tapped on my shoulder and pointed at the night sky. When I looked up, we saw 8 green lights moving around in patterns. They would shift positions, and then they started to spin in a circle. I found myself staring at the lights, and I felt somewhat safe and comforted. Looking at them almost felt like the loving embrace of my father. My friend apparently didn't feel the same because she ran inside, leaving me alone with the lights. I recall feeling sleepy and relaxed. I didn't really care that the rustling from the foliage had become louder and more prominent. I then fell asleep or maybe passed out.
What hell of a friend? Who just leaves? You just leave your compadre behind, man. That's some shit.
Yeah, well, they are young, and I think I would have left you too.
Oh, well.
So,
fuck you.
But yeah. What strikes as familiar in this as to other cases is the feeling of looking, or the feeling of the anxiety being alleviated from looking at this craft, and the more contact you have and attention you pay to it, the more you felt the anxiety be alleviated. And that's actually a very common theme in these things, and also the sleepiness. And this whole thing actually sounds like very similar to the incident at Devil's Den, the craft you described, and how it moved sounds slightly like that. The feeling of the anxiety going away and the feeling of tiredness, it's all similar. And it's actually a pretty common theme in most of these abduction stories. And I think that speaks to some kind of telepathic influence that these beings may or may not have on us.
Probably going to have to, because all I'm saying, if I saw a bunch of flashing lights up in the sky doing shit that airplanes can't do, I'm probably not going to stick around for very much longer.
Yeah. I don't think most people would, and I think that that speaks to the influence, because most people would be like a friend and run.
From now on, I'm carrying a gun, so as soon as I see the lights, I'm going to shoot it. Maybe they'll leave me alone. I don't feel like being passed out and taken.
But we'll continue here. When I woke up, I was in a bluish-white room. I was being held by this large figure. I felt as if I was being cradled in the figure's arms. It was a nice feeling. The figure was handling me with care and maybe even love. After waking up a little more, I noticed that the arms of the figure were a little scaly, with multiple scaly scutes covering the arms. I looked up at the figure's face and saw a somewhat drawn-out muzzle and a gentle expression. The eyes of the figure were bright blue and relaxed. They looked down at me. The figure's expression was loving and showed gentleness. I was placed on what seemed like a bed of sorts. The person carrying me walked into another room, and someone else walked over to me and removed my prosthetic legs. And before we go any further, it sounds like these are reptilian beings of sorts.
With that, those people that are all about the reptilian people taking over the world, chill out, calm down. I'm not saying that they are. They probably definitely are, but I'm not saying it. Not out loud. But they've got to be a calming effect going on, because there's no way
a 10-year-old girl, I believe she said she was 10.
Yeah, would not freak out with a lizard holding her.
Yeah, there's no possible way. There's got to be some psychiatric influence, maybe telepathic, maybe they gave her drugs while she was sleeping, or maybe
no way
something
I'd
in the
calm
air.
down being held by Reptar from.
But it's a common thing, and it's just so abnormal that there's got to be some kind of influence they have on us, be it drugs or be it some telepathic communication or influence. It's something. But we'll continue here.
Oh, real quick on that other note. Let's see. Why are they scanning her nubs after they took off her prosthetic leg? Sorry, that's definitely a little weird.
The only thing I can think of in that regard is that it's probably a rare thing for them to see because they're not among us. I wouldn't think. Maybe they are, but they don't see.
We're hinting at it. If you didn't catch it,
yeah. They don't see amputees all that often, so maybe they were scanning to see what the damage was like, or see if she was born that way, or I think they were trying to learn.
Okay, I can believe that,
But we'll continue here. They examined my nubs and then went to get something that looked like one of those item scanners you see at a grocery store. They moved it around my nubs, and the device made a light humming noise. They nodded, got up, and walked on to the other room. I looked around me and saw that the room had multiple beds all around it. Some were empty, but others had kids around my age or younger in them. One of them looked a little scaly and had no hair. She was laying down, drinking something from a cup. Heard overlapping sounds like conversation. They sound like the hissing of a snake or monitor lizard, but with grunts here and there. I'm going to stop right there because it sounds to me at least like you're talking about maybe a crossbreed of human and some sort of reptilian being. Is that what it sounds like to you?
That, or maybe a possible infant of theirs?
Possibly. It's hard to tell. When she says he looked, or one of them looked a little scaly.
With no hair, so.
With no hair, that either leads me to think maybe it's crossbreed or maybe she's sick with something.
Yeah. I'm definitely not set on the tone. That I like my reptilians. I like my snakes and my lizards. I'm not a fan of a 6 foot tall one. Definitely sounds like definitely on the reptilian side, given the hissing
and the monitor lizard grunts.
No, they don't say grunts. It says but with grunts here and there. It's just hissing.
That's true. So it sounds like they have their own language.
Yeah.
But a reptilian language. But we'll continue here. She states, I tried to turn my head to see through the archway to the room the figure had went through, but I found myself being too tired. So she's still feeling extremely tired, and that makes me think she was administered some kind of drug or the telepathic.
I think I'm going to lean a little bit more towards of the drug, because it did say earlier that she passed out. So there's no telling what happened from when she passed out to when she got on the ship and woke up being being cradled.
But she felt sleepy before she passed out.
Yeah.
So I don't know. There's a million ways to come about this, and we really don't know. But I think for sure it was either some sort of drug administration or telepathic influence. But she goes on to say, a boy in a bed just ahead of me was twitching in his sleep. Small whimpers escaped from him. He seemed to be having a nightmare. One of the beings from the other room made their way over to the boy and placed a scaly hand on his chest. There were sounds of hisses and grunts from the being, and then they picked up the boy and cradled him while making gentle shushing noises. So, with the shushing noises, that leads you to believe that these beings are very familiar with young children.
Yeah. Also, now I'm starting to see more of the. Well, I'm not for sure. I have some siblings that have nightmares, and me cradling my siblings with the nightmares would not calm them down. The only time they ever calm down is when they woke up and realized it was just a dream. So it's probably definitely a little bit of what you think of telekinesis going on there, like easing their mind while they sleep.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And with a child calming down with someone embracing them, that someone is typically someone very familiar, like a parent. When I was a child, it didn't have to be a reptilian. It could have been any stranger, and I would have freaked out. But
yeah. Going
on, she says, the boy calmed down and was placed back at his bed. The being noticed me watching and made an expression that looked like a smile. So, unless they just had similar expressions before they ever came to Earth, they've learned our expressions, and they're familiar with our younger.
I wish you would have delved them. I want to know if they had like razor sharp teeth, because that definitely been a pretty different scenario between me and her. If I was 10 and I saw lizard smiling at me, if they had like rows of 40 bajillion teeth that are serrated, I'll definitely not be a happy camper.
Yeah,
I'll probably wig out. I probably would rather them not smile at me.
I think we're gonna try to do a follow up with this Redditor if she is okay with it, because she actually said there's more to the story, and she said she continues to remember things. But she goes on to say that they walked towards me and spoke. I was surprised to hear that I could understand them. Their mouth was moving slightly, but the mouth didn't match what the words were saying. And there was a device on their head that was beeping each time they spoke, so they had some form of translation system, for sure. They were telling me to remain calm and that they weren't there to hurt me. They saw the trouble I had gone through, and they said they were trying to fix things. And
that's nice.
That's extremely nice, and yeah, I think this is a good point to acknowledge the fact that this story isn't like most in the fact that it's extremely positive.
Yeah,
there's a positive vibe to this, and
the other stories we read, they're getting cut open, like experimented on, I guess you'd say, poked and prodded, and they're going through a whole bunch of different stuff, and they come out
with severe PTSD,
traumatized. It's pretty bad
overall. Very negative experience, but this one is it's overwhelmingly positive.
Yeah.
And when they said they were trying to fix things, I believe you're probably talking about the issues between your mother and father, or maybe something else. But that's her
legs.
Exactly. Maybe her legs. They were scanning them, trying to learn about them. So it's hard to say exactly what they were trying to fix for, but it definitely is positive. And she goes on to say that she tried to respond but couldn't find the words to. The last thing I remember was seeing what looked to be an adult human walking in the room before I fell back asleep. And that right there is very interesting.
So,
because any human up to this point has been a child.
Yeah. Or a hybrid.
Possibly a hybrid.
Possible, yeah. So, an adult human. Oh, well, it looked to be. She is groggy and sleepy. So, but yeah. A possibly human adult in there. So yeah, maybe
very interesting. It kind of makes me wonder if that maybe it was an adult human, or maybe it was another being that was very humanoid, but not
working
human.
in tandem with the
working in tandem with these
the reptilian ones.
Yeah,
trying to get a name that's not absolutely backwater, but I'll keep thinking on one.
But we'll go on and finish the story real quick, and then we'll do a little bit of a summary. When I woke up, I was on the back porch of my friend's house. I rubbed my eyes and shook my head. I didn't feel any pain or anything. I'm actually going to stop right there. That's very uncommon, too. Everybody, after these experiences, always feels extreme discomfort. Sometimes they feel like they have a full body sunburn and dehydration, and they just do not feel
or
well.
Extreme amount of pain.
And it's extremely different. But instead of feeling pain, she says that she felt very well rested. And she goes on to say, I got up and walked around. I called my friend's name. There was no answer, so I called again. My friend's older sister came and looked surprised to see me. She asked why I came back and that it was way too late to be outside. I told her it was only like 10. And she said that it was actually 1 a.m. So she had 3 hours missing. So after 3 hours of missing, I guess her friend just went inside and told her parents or her older sister that she had just went home. It doesn't really specify, but it is out of character, I think, for most children to not
be like, hey, mommy, daddy, look, I seen lights outside.
Yeah, and then you go home, you don't tell anybody. It sounds a little bit out of character, and maybe there was some influence on some other people other than you. But we'll finish the story now. She offered that I sleep there for the night, and I did. The next morning, I went back to my house and saw that my mother's car wasn't there. Inside, my dad was asleep on the couch, and there was no sign that my mother was there. Weeks later, after that incident, my father divorced my mother, and we moved from Manitoba to Ontario. He never believed me when I told him about my experience, and no one else had that I told the story to so I decided to keep it to myself. But a couple weeks ago, I started having memories relating to my abduction, and I started to remember more and more pieces as I watched documentaries and podcasts about abduction stories and experiences.
That is interesting that, because when this abduction happened, her mom she had just walked out of her house because her mom was drunk.
She had some kind of altercation with her father.
Yeah, no, it was her mother.
Well, her mother had some kind of...
Yeah, altercation with her dad, and, so she went out to go get away from that and go play with friends. And then in between, a 3-hour mark from the lights till, when they drop her back off.
And the beings claiming that they were trying to fix things.
Yeah, her mom's gone. There's no sign of her. Now, we don't know. I mean, she didn't really dive too much in detail. Like, did she ever come back around again or say something? Or did she just, I guess, and fell off the face of the earth kind of ordeal?
It's not really known, but, we're going to try to do a follow-up with this Redditor, like I said. But that definitely makes you think that's what the aliens were talking about.
Yeah.
And trying to fix things. And,
it's unfortunate, how many times kids have told their parents they've seen something or something's happened and they don't ever believe them.
Yeah, and they don't ever believe them. And sometimes it's wrote off as nothing, and sometimes that's out of character, It's just it's a hard thing to look at because you have these feelings of sometimes described as euphoric feelings when these abduction stories are told that you don't know what kind of influence was put on the people around you.
Yeah.
So it's just really hard to tell, and we'd love to follow up with juli-segal on Reddit and maybe do another podcast on this one because she claims she continues to remember things. But I think
it's definitely a more positive approach, I would say, to some other ones that we'll be doing later on in the future. That we've kind of just glanced over because some of them are pretty negative. This is probably one of the more better outlook on it than that. Not because a lot of times you see it coming out like, oh, we're here to experiment on us and do tests on us. This one's here like,
we're here to help you.
We're here to help you, give you a better life, you do what we can.
And it begs the question, why? Why did they want to help you?
Yeah.
And not saying that they shouldn't have or that you didn't deserve the help, but it does beg the question on why they chose to help you. And that's a whole nother topic, and that's a whole conversation in itself. But I think that's going to do it for this episode, guys. If you liked it, subscribe, please. Leave a comment or something, and we'll catch you on the next one.